Do you edit your photos on a small laptop screen? If you do, you might find yourself getting a little bit frustrated. The screen can get really crowded and it's just difficult to see your images properly. If this sounds like you, I've got a few tips for you today that will hopefully help improve your editing experience, specifically in Adobe Lightroom Classic. Let's dive in and have a look. Hi, my name's Charlotte Reeves. I'm from Unleash Education and you tuned in to another Editing Toolbox video. In these quick videos, we share a tip, trick, or technique to help make your pet photography editing life easier. Now, today's tip is specifically for Macbook users, so Apple laptop users. However, the same techniques may work for using a Windows computer. Because I don't use Windows, I'm not sure what the exact shortcuts are, but if you do, you should be able to look into it and make it work for you as well. So if you use a MacBook to edit your pet photos and you use Adobe Lightroom Classic, you might find that you tend to run out of screen real estate space. So I'm actually on a Mac Studio here with quite a large screen, but I've changed some settings on my computer to decrease the resolution to kind of simulate what it looks like on a laptop. So let's have a look at Lightroom. So when you open Lightroom, you might be faced with something like this. The image that you're trying to edit is actually quite small on the screen and it's just surrounded by stuff. You've got panels, you've got your dock down the bottom, you've got menu items up the top, and the size of the image that you're actually looking at trying to edit is really quite small. And when you translate this to a small screen, it's actually quite tiny. So something that you can do to help increase your screen real estate space is actually go into full screen mode. So you can find this mode by going into Window, Screen Mode, but you can also use a keyboard shortcut. And because I love to use keyboard shortcuts, I think they're a great time saver. You can actually just press Shift F on the keyboard. So this will actually toggle through a few different screen modes. So we'll go Shift F. Now the first thing it does is remove the menu at the top. If I press it again, see how it actually makes the whole of Lightroom Classic full screen. And look at all the extra space we've got. I'll just toggle that back. So Shift F to toggle that back to how it was. And then again. And then again. So you do lose your dock down the bottom. You also lose your little toolbar across the top. However, I found this to be quite advantageous. What it really does is remove distractions, which is fantastic when you're trying to concentrate on editing. There's a few other little things you can do to help get that image in the middle a little bit bigger. So depending on how you've got Lightroom set up, you may have the information overlaid on top of the image. Another keyboard shortcut, you can just press I and that will toggle through that information and get rid of it off the image for you. Sometimes it's handy to see, but when your screen's so small, it does take up a lot of space on your image. Another thing you can do is actually adjust the size of these panels here. So if you hover over the right-hand side here, you'll see that the icon, the cursor changes. So we can actually make that a little bit smaller. We can make that a little bit smaller and that sort of frees up a bit more space. We can actually make the film strip down the bottom a little bit smaller as well. If you make it too small, you'll actually lose the little icons on your images that tells you whether your images are flagged or not. But if you make it just a little bit bigger, those little flags come back again, and also the numbers on the thumbnails too. So that also helps to get a bit more screen real estate space. Now there's a couple of other things you can turn off as well. So if you press T on your keyboard, that will actually remove that little toolbar down the bottom here. So this is a handy little toolbar to have because it brings up things contextually depending on what tools you're using. But if you do want to maximize your space, just press T and that's gone. You can also fold away your sidebars. Actually, you can fold away any of these tabs here. So you can just click to fold them away individually, or you can press tab on the keyboard. That will get rid of both of your sidebars and then just press tab to get that back again. You can also get rid of the little strip across the top that tells you what module you're in. So we're usually only in library and develop when we're editing photos. And I like to sort of move between those modes using keyboard shortcuts. I very rarely actually click library or develop up here. So you can fold this one away just by pressing the little triangle up here. And that gets you a little bit of extra space up there as well. So another thing that you can do to improve your experience, when I'm on a big screen and I go into the masking, when you click this little icon here, I actually like that it comes up with all your masks in that panel. It doesn't go over the top of the image. I think that makes a lot of sense when you're on a bigger screen. However, when you're on a smaller screen, and especially when you have multiple masks, it can be really difficult to actually see the sliders that you've got because all your masks kind of go over the top of them. In that case, it's probably better to just have that masking panel pulled off to the side. So if you can just click and drag on the top of that and drop it anywhere on your image, and then you can kind of dock it up into the side here. When you get out of masking, so I usually just press return twice to get out of masking, it will actually disappear that completely. There's one final thing that you can do if you want to get a really good idea of exactly what your image looks like with none of this interface around the side. Really easy keyboard shortcut. It's just a single letter. It's very intuitive. Just press F for full screen. That takes the image that you're editing up full screen. It gets rid of everything else and allows you to see the image really well. You can even zoom in when you're in this mode. Makes it really easy to see all the details in your image. So just press F to head back into the Lightroom interface. One more thing, you might wonder where your menu at the top has actually gone. It hasn't gone far, don't worry, it's really easy to find. You just have to move your mouse all the way out to the top of the screen, and there it is. So there's your Lightroom Classic menu and all your little icons across the top. Move away and it vanishes again. So what do you do when you want to get out of it? Say you want to go to a different program, you want to see the time, you want to check your notifications, whatever. So it's not super intuitive to get out of this mode. You can just press that same keyboard shortcut that you press to get in here, which is Shift F, and that will cycle you back to this mode where you can see all the menus in your dock. But then of course, when you want to go full screen again, you've got to cycle back through. A couple of other ways that I use to get to other programs. You can press Command Tab on your keyboard, and that will bring up this little scroller where you can scroll through to different programs, and then you just let go on the program that you want to go to. So Command Tab to get back into Lightroom. Probably the most common technique that I use to get rid of Lightroom is actually just Command H. So that will completely hide Lightroom. And then when you want to go back to Lightroom, just have to open up Lightroom again. So I actually keep it in this view mode the whole time that I'm using Lightroom, even on my 27-inch screen, because I really enjoy the distraction-free editing experience it gives me. So without the dock along the bottom, with all your notifications popping up, without seeing the menu bar at the top, I just find it's a much more focused experience. So hopefully this has been helpful for you. I really hope this helps to improve your editing experience in Lightroom Classic, especially on a small screen. If you have any questions, please drop them in the comments. Until next time, catch you later. Bye.